All right, welcome back. Kincaid and Breckenridge Show. I'm Roger Kincaid, Rob Breckenridge. This is a weird story because there's really no rational explanation as to why Volkswagen...
people's car.
It is the people's car. Why they decided to try to skirt EPA regulations in the United States and make vehicles that are harmful to the people, apparently. So this Volkswagen scandal is thick and deep and multi-layered. But effectively what they did was they programmed the car to spew more nitrous oxide, basically, smog-producing nitrous oxide, because there's this trade-off in these diesel engines that we're talking about, where you either get better fuel economy or, environmental protection, right, or better power performance. But, you got to make a trade-off here. Mm-hmm. And what Volkswagen did is they found a way that they could program the car to fool the emissions tests so that it would know when it was being tested for its emissions and it would kick into environmentally friendly mode. But then when it wasn't being tested, it would kick into more fun-to-drive mode. And people like this. Presumably people bought this car because they're thinking, hey, it's an environmentally responsible choice.
Right. And that's the thing. So you have the CEO of Volkswagen put out a statement saying that he's deeply sorry that we've broken the trust of our customers and the public, saying they would cooperate fully with the authorities. They would order their own independent investigation. But again, they're not contesting these assertions that the EPA has put out, that they were selling these cars with that software that was there to detect when the testing was taking place. So it would come up with something, as you say, during the testing, and emissions would be 40 times higher. Outside of the testing, 40 times.
Now, let's not let this happen again, by the way. We're never going to say Volkswagen CEO without saying his name again because it's fun to say Martin Winterkorn.
Do you say Winterkorn or Winterkorn?
Winterkorn.
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 Martin Winterkorn.
Well, this is a weird story, though, right? Because you kind of wonder why Volkswagen did it, knowing that the stakes are this high. There's a criminal investigation going on right now. That Volkswagen broke the law, and this could cost them billions and billions of dollars. They're already putting like $9 billion aside, and they expect Martin Winterkorn to step down this week.
Yeah, they lost billions in market value just over the last day or so. And on top of the cost of the recall, which is going to be in the billions, they're facing some huge fines. So this is potentially disastrous for Volkswagen, and all for what? To skirt some EPA rules that they probably could have met if they were determined to do so.
Let's get Lorraine Sommerfeld back in this conversation. She's been on the program before, auto columnist for Post Media and host of Rogers TV Lemon and Car Show. Hey, Lorraine, good to have you back.
Hello there.
So, I mean, you heard us in the preamble there setting up this Volkswagen scandal story, but where does it stand right now? Is there going to be a vehicle recall in Canada here?
Oh, yeah. There's a stop deal on the cars up here. They can't sell them. Winterkorn's gone this morning, guys.
Oh, he quit.
Is he gone?
Wow.
Well, they switched him out. They pulled him out, obviously.
Oh.
But, we've never seen anything like this. My colleagues and I were all sitting around like, what? And we're never speechless. And it is so big. And they also admitted now 11 million cars worldwide they've done this to. And the reason they care over here is because the EPA standards are much higher than they are in, say, India or China or something. But they just came out and said it's not just the 500,000 in North America, it's 11 million worldwide.
Wow.
So big lying, big lies.
Well, no kidding. Now, the interesting thing is that diesel used to be associated with, dirty, polluting vehicles, right?
Yeah.
And we got into this era of clean diesel, and diesel seen much differently now. This is obviously going to hurt the image of diesel, but what was Volkswagen trying to do here in your estimation?
I think the technology is moving really rapidly, and you know how you get that saying about fast, cheap, or good, take two? This is almost clean, cheap, or good, take two. And Mercedes and Volkswagen, they've pushed out really, really far ahead with the diesel. And diesel has a real struggle in the U.S. to get market share. In Canada, it does much, much better. We have more of a European background, I think, and because Europeans embrace diesels, it was easier to sell them in Canada. But the U.S., they've struggled. And so that whole thing about clean diesel, great consumer images, and they've really pushed it. The problem is they also want to get cars that people will buy. Like, they want them to be cheaper than a Mercedes or a BMW. And they pushed. And I think what happens is from year to year, the technology jumps 5 steps ahead, not one. It's crazy. And why they did it, it's crazy. They knew they would have to be caught. Like, it's going to get caught. They do random testing of things. It's also much harder to test diesels. You know how they do emissions tests?
Mm-hmm.
And diesels, it's more difficult. It's not done the same way. And so they probably knew they wouldn't get caught out as easily unless somebody specifically went after it. I can't understand a company knowingly putting in software to knowingly break the law so big, like the cost, because everyone's been saying, how can VW do this? They're a miracle. This is unbelievable. And everyone else is kind of chewing their heels going, yeah, it's great. Look how cheap they can do it. So there's always been an under rumble of how they can get these cars out there cheaper, but, no one's, it's like, wow, they're just working really hard at this.
Right.
But diesels are dirt. Diesel is dirty, and it's in the scrubbing and the AdBlue, that urea they put into it, that's what cleans it. And so that extra technology is expensive, and it's also heavier. So that when they're heavier, they don't get such good fuel economy, and that's what you want from a diesel. The whole point of buying it is better fuel economy and really good torque, like great performance. And especially the Golfs and the little Volkswagens are so much fun to drive. Well, the reason they're so much fun to drive is because they don't have the hobbles on them that everyone else in the industry does. No kidding. Like, they could have all this power, and I don't know what they're going to do. 500,000 cars. I've got friends emailing me going, you told me to buy one of these. Like, yeah. So we all feel as let down as buyers do. Like, we feel like idiots.
Why, though? I mean, just because you thought you were buying a clean car?
Because journalists, we go and learn the technology, we find out about it, we drive them.
Yeah.
It's like the experience is great, the price is good, the maintenance is good, VW's got a great background. I mean, we don't recommend cars to people, well, I don't, just because I think that would be, get it off my plate, like just buy something. Really believed in it. Mm-hmm. And so we got lied to, and then we in turn lied to our readers. Mm-hmm. So I know that makes it all about me, which is really
no. I think that's a huge cohort of people who were conned, right? I mean, because it's true, right? You thought you were promoting a car, or not promoting, but recommending a car that was what Volkswagen claimed it to be. You were passing on a fraudulent bill of goods.
It's true, and you know how those ratings for mileage, the stickers in the window when you go to buy a new car, and it says it'll get this much on the highway and this much in the city. And the numbers are just crap. It's unicorns and leprechauns go in the back room and make up numbers, I swear. Like, they've got nothing to do with your real-world driving experience. Everyone knows it. Except, we always say with an asterisk, except VW comes closer than anybody. And I've been saying this for years because they do. I've driven them. Now I know why. So it kind of puts a shadow across the entire company, unfortunately, because they make great stuff. But my biggest concern is, will this kill diesel over here? And there's a chance it might.
Well, the EPA has their rules. They have their emission standards. Yeah. And one would think that if Volkswagen could meet those standards, they wouldn't need to cheat. I mean, this seemed to be a signal that they had to do this because there was no way to meet those standards.
Well, they did it in other models of the lineup. It's not every VW. It's not every VW diesel. It's the ones that don't have the urea injectors and the AdBlue. Actually, some of them do. It's getting complicated as more details come out. But the higher model ones, like, it's just a 2.0 liter engine that this issue is about. They're totally capable of doing it because they're doing it. But they wanted it in those little sporty ones, the Jettas and the Passats that drive the way they do. So it's not that they couldn't do it, it's that they knowingly didn't. And I can't stress how big this is. And people go, well, GM killed people and Volkswagen didn't. But you're putting out 40 times the pollutants on 500,000 cars. It is killing people. Our air pollution and the stuff in it, that is killing people. That's the reason we have emissions testing and EPAs and these really stringent things that the manufacturers have to achieve. And it's really not fair when the playing field is that unlevel. Everyone else is meeting these standards.
This seems like it's leaded gasoline all over again.
Oh, honestly, we're not sure where to undo this ball of yarn. Like, there's so many things that this is about, and there's the trust level, there's the mechanical thing, there's the software stuff, there's who knew it, when did they know it, who okayed it. But where do you start? I've got a friend with a 5-month-old VW diesel down in the States. She goes, great, now what do I do? Class action suits? Will she ever see a car that anyone will want to buy? Does she want to drive around polluted? I've got a couple of people that go, we thought we were driving something cleaner. And that bothers them.
Yeah.
People, it's not just money. It really does bother people. So the issues are deep and deep and deeper.
Well, it's interesting. Volkswagen is understand. I mean, they recently became the biggest automaker in the world, at least in terms of the number of cars sold. But they've still been trying to break through in the United States. And so given where they are right now and given their precarious position in the U.S., I mean, how bad is this going to hurt them?
Well, the money alone is going to be so destructive, billions and billions and billions of dollars. But I think their even bigger problem is going to be the long climb back to respectability and trust. And that takes you forever to earn, and it's gone in a heartbeat. And consumers have choices. We've never had more choices in affordable, good vehicles. We've never had more options. So guess what, VW? They're not going to need you. And burn me once. You know, you catch your hubby fooling around on you, you don't have to stay with him. There's other guys out there. So that's how I look at VW. And I'm not a scorned woman by any means, but, you know, we have choices. We have amazing choices. This isn't, 1920 and there's one black Model T and take it or leave it.
Yeah, right.
And the technology is zooming ahead so quickly that we can get what we want when we want it at the price we want to pay. Why are we going to put up with someone that lied to us?
The timeline on this is peculiar, too, because, and there's one thing that stands out to me as a bit odd, and I want to run it by you, but this was independent testing that discovered this, and it was the University of West Virginia, I believe, that ran this test. They stuck a probe up the tailpipe of these vehicles, and they drove them from San Diego to Seattle to test the emissions, and then they found out, like, hey, Volkswagen is basically lying, or these cars don't even come close to standard. How is this even possible? And then they basically, like, Volkswagen said, "Oh my goodness, we'll try and fix this." This was last year.
Bad one. Yeah.
Yeah. So they in 2014 they're like, "Oh well, let's look into that and we'll try and fix this." And then apparently some Volkswagen engineers got waterboarded into saying that, we bugged the cars.
Oh yeah. No, it's been going on for a while. And actually, that independent place that just surprisingly came across it, I've heard off the record that it had been going a lot longer than that for trying to figure out how Volkswagen was doing this. And the EPA, a lot of people go, oh, the EPA is just, won't get over itself, and they're so strict, and they're holier, and all that stuff. But when you've got one manufacturer doing something and the other ones can't, that's not how science works. It's just not. And so they were looking, and I don't know how Volkswagen, you just said it, they had the heads up a year ago. You get ahead of this stuff. You get ahead of it. You don't chase after it like a puppy after a school bus. It's not going to happen anymore.
They kept doing it, right? This is like Alex Rodriguez gets busted for steroids and keeps doing steroids, right?
Well, I want to go, have you met the Internet? You can't hide this stuff anymore, especially when your competitors are so strong and so smart. And, again, the technology keeps changing. You should be able to replicate what somebody was doing last year. And it's complicated. And again, we feel so, and I'm speaking for a lot of people, I don't know what to tell people anymore. I'm so ashamed for Volkswagen for doing this to me, which sounds so stupid, but I've recommended them and stood by them and learned all the new stuff as it comes out. And they're going to cast a shadow across the entire diesel industry, not just themselves.
Right. Well, what does this do for their other brands, Lorraine? I mean, they've got Bentley, Porsche, Skoda, Scania in Europe. Mercedes
huge over here.
Lamborghini, Bugatti, Ducati. Like, they've got a lot of brands.
Oh, Mazda. Everyone's trying to come in with diesels. GM, everyone's working on it because you have to keep up. And I think the problem is that they make excellent vehicles and they go according to the rules. As far as we know, they tested a BMW and it was fine. Now you've got this one that happens to be very strong that's done this. Everyone's for consumers, we're pretty basic. We just hear the word diesel and go, oh no, remember that? What was that thing about diesels? Memories are not. Average consumers don't always pay a lot of attention to all the details. So now if they're just going to hear diesel, they'll run away. Because this is so pervasive. The company is so big. If it was some little obscure company that screwed up, it wouldn't matter. But this would be like if Kellogg's or somebody poisoned their cornflakes. And they never did, and they didn't. And Kellogg's, I love you, I buy you every week. But it's like that. It's that big, and it's going to cast problems. And diesel has had a hard time getting a foothold in the U.S. market as it is. They can do it in Canada. That European background really, really helps in Canada. But the U.S. has been an uphill struggle for all of them to get a foothold. This just shoots them. It's like that game Sorry, where you go back to the start. Like, this is really going to be a kick to all of them, whether they're breaking the rules or not.
Well, that's the thing, Lorraine. I mean, we've seen in recent years, and someone texted asked this question, that Toyota and GM went through their own scandals and cost them a lot of money, but the notion maybe that they've got deep pockets and we all have short memories. Do you think that this is different, though?
I hope it is, because I think there's people that should be in jail that aren't at GM and Toyota, and I cannot believe a guy that sold bad peanuts that killed people went to jail for 28 years yesterday. He only killed 9 people. GM killed a whole bunch more. I get so angry that we don't hold anyone accountable, because you know what? Money, talk to the people who are dead.
Yeah.
And money doesn't matter, because then they hide the problems for 10 years. And Volkswagen has been doing this for years and years. It's since 2007. Come on. What's your answer? Like, I've caught my kids in way better lies than this. I mean, and I can't believe that no one ever goes to jail and they pass the buck and say, we won't do it. But the EPA, they got a bug up their butt, and they're looking for somebody now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some heads roll.
All right, Lorraine.
Wintercorns.
Yeah, we'll see. Appreciate the analysis as always. Thanks for being with us here.
Thanks, guys.
All right, Lorraine Sommerfeld, auto columnist for Post Media, host of the Rogers TV Lemonade Car Show. Let's take a break here. We'll come back. Some more thoughts on this and a lot more still to come. It's Kincaid and Breckenridge. Stay with us.
Roger Kincaid and Rob Breckenridge.